In these problems, we are going over how to solve one-step multiplication equations. Let's jump right into it. So I've given you this equation here that states 8 times some number t is 96. So that number being right next to t means multiplication. How do we undo multiplication? Well, how we can undo multiplication is with the exact inverse operation. The opposite of multiplication, division, or division if you're saying it, well, normally. So I'm going to divide both sides of this equation by 8. What that does is that will undo the multiplication by 8 with division, and whatever I do to one side of the equation, I must do to the other side of the equation to keep the equation true. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. So I'm left with 1 times t, which is just t because 1 times any number is that any number. Now I focus on this part, 96 divided by 8. We should know our times tables. 96 divided by 8 is 12 because 12 times 8 is 96. And so that is our solution. I'm going to want to check my answer. So to do that check, I take the original equation, and in my head I'm thinking t is this empty holding spot that we've labeled t. So that empty holding spot is named t. And we want to know, does plugging 12 in, does evaluating 12 in for t give me 96? Well, 8 times 12, knowing those times tables, is equal to 96. And therefore this thing checks out because 96 is equal to 96. Note that you could have solved this guy mentally and said the original problem being 8t equals 96. You're saying what number times 8 is 96? That's literally the definition of division. What number times 8 is 96? Very cool. All right, in this next problem right here, we have 3 equals 0.4w. Now personally, I like to switch it up so that I'm reading this thing left to right. That's right, thing or thing. So I'm gonna write it as 0.4 dubs, or w, is equal to 3. Now, don't worry that this is a decimal right here. That number's a decimal. Who cares? It's a number times w. And I want to undo multiplication. So, to undo multiplication, we divide by what's being multiplied. And what I do to one side of an equation, I must do to the other. And now we know that we'll have a balanced equation. 0.4 divided by 0.4 is 1. They cancel out, leaving us with w on the left-hand side. Now on the right-hand side, if you have a calculator, great. If you don't have a calculator, then no worries. We're going to do out that mental math. Not that mental math. We're going to do it out with a little bit of thinking. So this right here is the same as 3 divided by 0.4. So we're going to set up that decimal division problem, do it out, and then put the result of our work right in here. So I have 0.4 is divided by 3. That's the division that's going on. Now, if you remember, what we do is we move the decimal point over one place here, and then we're going to do that one place here. So you're really getting 4 dividing into 30, right? So we want to be careful that if we're making this guy into a whole number right here and that guy into a whole number right there, well, that we keep the decimal places aligned. So move this one place, move that one place. So how many times does 4 go into 30? Well, 4 doesn't go into 3 at all. So I'm just going to skip that part and recognize that 4 goes into 30. Let's see. Well, 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 8 is 32. So it's somewhere between 7 and 8. So it's going to go into it evenly 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. And then we subtract. And we see that we have 2 remaining. We're going to drop down a 0 and keep the decimal point lined up right there. And we drop down a 0 and now we're in tenths. So 4 goes into 25 times with nothing remaining. So 5 times 4, 20. And no remainder, so that means that 4 goes into 30 7.5 times, so 0.4 goes into 3 7.5 times. So our final answer, 7.5. And how do you check that work? Well, you would do 3, is it equal to 0.4 times 7.5? And we can do that work out to see that 0.4 times 7.5 is indeed equal to 3. Let's do it. So 7.5, and if you have a calculator handy, that would be okay, times 0.4. Note that you have 2 digits after the decimal place, so we're going to ignore the decimals and move the decimal place 2 places to the left once we're done with the problem. 4 times 5 is 20. Again, ignoring the decimal places. 4 times 7 is 28, plus the 2 that we carried over is 30. So you might be like, it's 300. Decimal place 1, 2 times, and you're left with 3.00 or 3. Y'all, it checks out. And you know what else checks out? Your ability to rock one-step multiplication equations. Go practice some.